A week in South Park. Back in 1998, a company known as Dreamforge were supposedly working on a game known as A Week in South Park, which was to release for the PlayStation 1 and computer in 1999. It was going to be a point-and-click puzzle game where the boys worked together to complete different goals and missions. It would have included inventory management, dialogue, as well as CD quality music. There is very little information on this game. In fact, the only source to confirm this game's existence comes from an old Game Center article which has been saved through the Wayback Machine. This page says that the game was 15% done at the time it was written, and had a completed intro cutscene with full visuals. Nothing, however, has ever surfaced of this long-lost South Park game.
Geomon. Geomon was an iOS game created by Loki Studios and released back in 2010. In this game, you would play as a field agent for Esper Corp and would be required to travel around capturing different creatures known as Espers. This game was pretty unique, as it acted like Pokemon Go before Pokemon Go existed. If you were near an ocean or some river, water creatures would spawn in the game. If the weather was warm, fire creatures would spawn. It was a pretty big game with a decent fan base. The game and its servers would unfortunately shut down in 2013 after Loki Studios was bought by Yahoo, and the game has since become unavailable to play.
Migooks. Migooks was a Brazilian online social game from 2008, made for children and teenagers. It was similar to games at the time like Club Penguin. However, it had an educational focus to it. You could click to move around, chat with players, and explore an underwater environment. The game was shut down in 2012 due to supposed financial issues.
SMB3 Free.cf. SMB3Free.cf was a website that would redirect you to an online Flash Mario game, pretending to be a free port of Super Mario Bros. 3. The game was created for a contest known as Create Your Own Screamer in 2016. After Mario reaches a certain part of the level within this game, Reagan McNeil from The Exorcist flashes on the screen alongside a loud scream. The game was later taken down. The game wasn't archived, and only a few screenshots of it have survived.
Rango the World. Rango the World was a free-to-play flash-based MMORPG based on the movie Rango. In this game, you would have been able to create your own character and explore this Rango world with other different players. The game's servers have been shut down, and this game is no longer playable. Fans have been calling for a remake, however, unfortunately, it is unlikely that will ever happen.
Minesweeper Flags. Minesweeper Flags was a multiplayer game from the 2000s, exclusively available to play through MSN Messenger. This game was based on Minesweeper, and your goal was to locate mines on the map, locating more than your opponent. The game was accessible by challenging any MSN contact from the message window. When the service became discontinued in 2013, the game of course also shut down along with it. It has become permanently unavailable.
Dungeon Quest. This was a mobile game from 2013, uploaded to the Google Play Store, which was based on the board game Dungeon Quest by Fantasy Flight Games. This mobile game was hit with negative reception from fans. A common criticism was that the game had not captured the board game's atmosphere. With the negative reviews, the game had been shut down and removed from the Play Store. It didn't last long at all, being only available for around a year. As of right now, all that has resurfaced of this game is one single advertisement screenshot. No gameplay or anything else exists.
The Incredible Hulk Atari 2600. In 1983, the toy and game manufacturer Parker Brothers had developed an Incredible Hulk game for the Atari 2600 system. You would play as Bruce Banner, going through different levels and avoid turning into the Hulk. The game was included as an ad in a magazine and shows what the game would have looked like. The game was eventually cancelled due to the video game crash of 1983 and never released. In 2001, a promo box had been purchased and scanned online, leading to theories that the game might exist somewhere out there.
Craft World. Little Big Planet is a very famous puzzle platform series a lot of you are probably aware of. Before it was ever Little Big Planet though, it was known as Craft World, and was a very simple 2D game meant to be released back in 2006. However, the game would eventually be reworked and graphics were improved, and Craft World would then turn into Little Big Planet, releasing in 2008 instead. This Craft World prototype game has become lost, only a few bits of gameplay actually exist. Fans have thankfully created a remake of Craft World in Little Big Planet 2, so it all comes full circle.
Splatterworld. This was a cancelled horror game that was planned to be released for the Famicom back in 1993. It was meant to be a part of Namco's Splatterhouse series. There wasn't much known about this game at all for a while. In fact, before 2024, the only hint at its existence was in a Namco Museum of Art's video discussing the Splatterhouse series. It wasn't until May 30th, 2024 when a Japanese Famicom researcher who goes by Orochi had posted in their blog that they had been sent a video cassette showing footage of the long-lost Splatterworld game. The videotape was originally meant for retailers, showing gameplay footage for potential buyers. It had been sent to retailers in late 1992, and the game had plans to release early the next year in 1993. It's theorized the game's cancellation is due to the shift to the Super Famicom.
Gremlins Arcade. In 1985, an arcade game based on the horror comedy film Gremlins was meant to be released. This game, however, was cancelled for reasons that are unknown. This arcade game included 3 different segments. A segment involving you playing as Lynn Peltzer and defending your kitchen from gremlins, another where you play as Billy Peltzer and melt gremlins in the street with a flashlight, and one where you play as Gizmo in a pink convertible going through a store. Despite it being unreleased and no prototypes resurfacing, footage of the arcade game has been put up online.
Chase Me. When the Wii U was first shown at E3 2011, a tech demo was available to play called Chase Me. This demo was made to show what the Wii U gamepad was capable of, and was essentially a hide-and-seek or tag minigame. This minigame never ended up releasing. However, fans think that the game was likely turned into the minigame Mario Chase in Nintendo Land, due to its many similarities.
Talking Cat Lover. Talking Cat Lover was a rip-off game from 2012, copying the Talking Tom game, Tom Loves Angela. This game was created by the Talking Friends team, a company that has made many other Talking Tom rip-off games. This talking cat lover game was eventually deleted around 2016, and the only thing left of it is a couple different screenshots. No footage is available.
Charlie Brown's All-Stars. On the back of the instruction manual for the PS2 Snoopy vs. the Red Baron game, an advertisement is included for an upcoming game known as Charlie Brown's All-Stars, set for a 2007 release. It was to be a baseball game featuring over 70 Peanuts characters, all having different abilities. The game never ended up releasing due to Farsight getting involved with other projects, just not having enough time to focus on this game. The only things that have surfaced of it is a render of Charlie Brown and the game's menu.
Angry Grandma Dash. In 2014, an app was uploaded to the iOS App Store known as Angry Grandma Dash. It looked to be a clone of the popular game Angry Gran Run. It was an endless runner where you would play as Angry Grandma, running through levels, collecting coins, and chasing down neighborhood kids. It's unknown when the game was removed from the App Store. However, the game is now lost and unplayable. Only a few gameplay screenshots have resurfaced.
Donkey Kong Racing. A sequel to the popular Nintendo 64 game Diddy Kong Racing was planned to be released for the GameCube back in 2002, and would have been titled Donkey Kong Racing. A teaser trailer for this game was shown off at E3 2001, and this would be the only time the game had been seen to the public. It wouldn't have any other announcements and wasn't shown anywhere else. The developer Rareware was eventually bought by Microsoft, and it came to 2004 with nothing of this game. It was 2 years after the game was meant to be released. Many fans thought it was quietly cancelled until Rareware stated that Donkey Kong Racing was revealed to have turned into the game Saberman Stampede. This game, however, was eventually cancelled. Donkey Kong Racing would fall into obscurity. The only things of it are a few images and the 2001 E3 trailer. No prototypes of the demo has leaked.
Siren Special Edition. Siren is a survival horror game made by Sony that had been released back in 2004 for the PS2. A special edition of the game was planned to be released later the same year on October 7th. However, it was ultimately cancelled, likely due to the poor reception and sales of the first game. Due to its cancellation, this special edition has also never seen the light of day.
Zombie Chasing. Zombie Chasing was a 2012 iOS game that was pretty much a rip-off and clone of Temple Run. It was an endless runner which involved you constantly making turns and jumps, collecting coins while getting chased by a pack of zombie-like creatures. It was actually quite well known, and a lot of people remember playing it. The game, however, has become unplayable today.
Drome Racing Challenge. This was a free MMO based on LEGO's Drome Racers that existed back on the LEGO.com website from 2002 to 2007. In this free MMO, players would have been able to customize their car and vehicle driver, unlock different powerful car parts, and race on different LEGO tracks. The game was closed in April 2007. Apparently, the game shutdown was a result of online hackers ruining the experience for other players.
Luigi's Mansion Beta Build. Luigi's Mansion is a game made for the Nintendo GameCube that many of you are probably aware of. It was released back in 2001 and has since turned into a classic. The game was first revealed back in the year 2000 as a tech demo at Nintendo Space World, and would be shown again a year later at E3. The tech demo revealed a wide range of differences that aren't seen in the final game. Just a few of these differences include the mansion layout, the appearance of Luigi's vacuum, several ghosts being changed, and a very unnerving game over screen which is not seen in the final game. This demo hasn't been leaked to the public.
How I Spent My Summer Vacation. How I Spent My Summer Vacation was a cancelled horror game meant to be released for the Nintendo DS and PC. In the game, you would play as a girl named Joanne, who had a goal of using a chainsaw to attack and get rid of zombies invading your summer place. This cancelled game has fallen into major obscurity, and the only thing that has really survived of it is a couple archived images. No video footage exists, and any demo of it has become lost.
Castle Take. Castle Take was an arcade game that had been released in Japan back in 1978 and appeared to be some clone of Atari's Breakout. The game was praised back in the day for its advanced graphics, as the machine contained a graphical chip capable of producing more colors. The game had been forgotten about. There is no footage online of gameplay, only photos of the cabinet and screen can be found. A ROM of the game is still yet to be dumped.
Creep Kick. This was a mobile game from 2013 which took two popular games at the time and pretty much morphed them together, that being gameplay from Kick the Buddy and graphics from Minecraft. This game used lots of different assets from Minecraft and copyrighted characters. This game was not licensed by Mojang. The game was eventually taken down. It's unknown if Mojang had requested the game to be removed. The iOS version of this game has not been archived and has gone completely missing. However, the APK for Android devices has been managed to be archived online.
Kappa Dance.
Lost games. There's so goddamn many of them. In fact, there's so many that an absolute insane person put together an iceberg covering 1,034 of them. That's pretty cool. You know who else is insane and has nothing better to do than talk about over 1,000 games? Me. You're watching my channel, me, obviously. This behemoth of a list contains a gargantuan amount of games that are either lost, partially lost, found, never existed at all, and may have existed, maybe. If you don't know what an iceberg is, it's a list featuring a ton of stuff ranked from most well-known to least well-known, and boy howdy are the games on this list not well-known. I mean, just look at the first tier. There's stuff like Total Drama, Avatar Creator, and what is this? Starting off with the first entry on the iceberg, we've got GTA 64. GTA 64, as you might be able to tell by its name, was a cancelled Nintendo 64 port of the original GTA. The port was apparently meant to have better graphics and extra content that was not present in the PlayStation release, which I don't know how you get better graphics than these. Just look at that car, man. The port was shown to the public at E3 in 1999, where it appeared to be about halfway complete. However, no footage of the showcase has been found, so take that with a grain of salt. I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo was behind this cancellation. I don't think they would have been super keen to have one of the most controversial games at the time on their family-friendly console. While the N64 did have some spicy content like Mortal Kombat and oh god, I don't want to talk about this one. The fear of GTA was as present as ever within the media. Releasing it on the N64 would have soiled Nintendo's family-friendly image. Either that or the port didn't run well. I don't know. I'm not your doctor. Dragon King, the fighting game, is a cancelled fighting game that was in development by Masahiro Sakurai and Satoru Iwata. The game was planned to be released for the N64 and was meant to make unique use of the N64's joystick. During early development, Sakurai wasn't too fond of the project as its atmosphere didn't really fit a home console. He felt that it should contain a bit more depth and engaging elements, as it felt too much like an arcade game. This would lead to them eventually cancelling the game, and what was left over would be refactored into what would become the original Super Smash Bros. Big Bible Town was an MMO created by Third Day Games in 2010 that was based on the game series Bible Champions, created by the same team. Oh, and it was based off the Bible as well, I'm guessing. The game was a bit of a rip-off of Club Penguin with a biblical filter plastered over it. Although that sounds quite epic and I really want to play it, the game didn't end up attracting too much attention and would eventually end up shutting down. What a shame. To this day, it's unknown when and even why it actually shut down. And all that remains are a few gameplay videos online, one of the biggest tragedies of our time. Kingdom Hearts V-Cast was an unofficial game based off the Kingdom Hearts series that was made for the Verizon Wireless V-Cast cell phone network. Don't worry, I don't know what the f that is either. The game came out in Japan in 2004, as well as the US the following year. Considering that this game was made by Disney Interactive and not Square Enix, this game is not canon, nor is a part of the main series. After the V-Cast network shut down in 2012, the game was lost with it, and all that remains is the first, third, and fourth chapter, while the second still remains lost. Call of Duty Vietnam is a cancelled Call of Duty game that was in development by Sledgehammer Games in 2011. As the title suggests, the game was to take place in the 1970s during the Vietnam War, and it was planned to be the first third-person game in the franchise. In 2011, it was announced that development was cancelled, and we unfortunately never ended up receiving a third-person COD. That was probably meant to be. Mean Girls DS is a well-known cancelled DS movie tie-in game for the movie Mean Girls. The game was fully developed and everything by 505 Games and was ready for release in Europe and the US in 2010, but for unknown reasons it was cancelled last minute. While a physical copy of the game has never been found, a ROM somehow managed to resurface in 2021, so we have some epic gameplay from this masterpiece. Clueless DS is another cancelled DS movie tie-in game for the 1995 movie Clueless. This game was also made by the same developers as Mean Girls, and was also set to be released in 2010. Most likely due to the same reason as the last entry, the game was cancelled unexpectedly before release. In 2021, a ROM for this game was also found by the same person who found the Mean Girls ROM, and this game is complete dog shit. Taiwan 2001 is a spoof game of the already a parody game Hong Kong 97. I actually made a video about this a while ago, but it got taken down because I showed a clip of a monkey smoking a cigar. The game was made by Kusosoft in 2001 and was released as freeware. The game somehow became lost as the website it was hosted on became broken. The game managed to get found again though in 2023 when its developer re-uploaded it. Fun fact, the developer of this game actually sent me a copy of it and I forgot about it. Deeks.com is a partially found website from 2008 created by Dairy Queen. The website hosted a bunch of Dairy Queen related flash games, as well as a virtual hub where users could customize their avatar and own home. What constitutes as a Dairy Queen related flash game? I don't fucking know. By completing activities on the site, users could gain points to be redeemed for virtual prizes of Dairy Queen coupons. Imagine grinding a flash game for hours and hours to get a free milkshake. I miss the 2000s, man. The site managed to stay up online until 2013, where the site was shut down and replaced with a set of 3 cringe flash games. While screenshots of the site still exist, the site itself and its flash games remain lost. This entry refers to the lost early DS build of Metroid, a game that finally finished development in 2021. The game is quite well known for its insane development hell that it went through, as development first began all the way back in 2025 as a DS game, only for it to be released as a Nintendo Switch game a total of 16 years later. Yikes. Damn, and I thought Yandere Sim was taking ages to come out. The early DS version of Metroid Dread has never managed to surface online, and judging by the time that's passed, it's unlikely that it will. Mario Takes America is a cancelled Philips CDI edutainment game that was planned to be released in 1994. The game was going to be a standard edutainment Mario title that would feature Mario visiting and learning about various iconic locations in the US. The game was planned to use FMV combined with 2D animation, but the size of the video footage was too much for the CDI to handle, and thus resulted in awful performance. After seeing this shit show of a game, Philips ended up cutting funding. Could you blame them? Really? And the game's assets were repossessed, meaning that the game remains lost. Damn, I can't wait till Nintendo releases Mario Takes the Middle East. It's gonna be such a banger. Mega Man Legends 3 is a cancelled Mega Man title that was set to be released in 2 parts for the 3DS eShop, with the prologue coming in 2011. According to Capcom, the game was cancelled due to a lack in fan involvement, as well as the project not being good enough for them. From what I can see online, Mega Man fans are still quite sore about its cancellation, and are still hoping that one day it will be released in some form. The reason the game is lost media is because the game was quite far in progress, and a build for the game had been shown to the public. Despite this, however, not a single shred of it has been seen for 13 years, so it will most likely never see the light of day. Ruby Dung was a game created by Marcus Pearson, better known as Notch, and was sort of the precursor to Minecraft, heavily inspired by the game Dwarf Fortress. Like Minecraft, Ruby Dung appeared to be a sandbox game, where the player could create and play around in a randomly generated world. Unlike Minecraft, Ruby Dung was never actually made available to the public, and the only proof of its existence is through screenshots released by Notch. It turns out that both the grass and cobblestone textures created for Ruby Dung were reused in Minecraft. Epic. Speaking of Minecraft, Lost Minecraft versions refers to the many different early builds of Minecraft that still remain lost to this day. According to the Lost Media Wiki, there's still about 113 builds of the game that are completely lost, and few more that still have their existence unconfirmed. While the majority of the alpha and beta builds have managed to be found by the community, the builds prior to the alpha have been lost for a good while, and the prospect of finding them does not look too promising. Star Wars 1313 was a third-person Star Wars shooter that was announced at E3 all the way back in 2012. Gameplay footage was shown at the announcement, and the game looked to be a single-player narrative game with a dark tone, in which they would play as a bounty hunter and uncover the backstory of Boba Fett. Despite how fucking sweet the game looked, as well as the astoundingly large amount of hype the game had, the game ended up being cancelled when Disney purchased LucasArts and gave the rights to make Star Wars games to EA. Disney, eat my ass. To this day, the build shown at E3 remains completely lost, and considering how cringe and pee-pee-poo-poo Disney and EA are, it's extremely unlikely that we'll ever hear about this game ever again. Super Mario 128 refers to a tech demo that was showcased during Space World 2000 for the GameCube and Wii. The demo appeared to be quite fleshed out, and some speculated that it could have been a potential game that was in development, maybe even a sequel to Mario 64. Yeah, fucking right. As you may guess from the name, the tech demo featured a group of 128 Marios. That's 127 too many, if you ask me. This giant horde of Marios would walk around some terrain that could be manipulated by the player. The demo was made in order to show the hardware capabilities of the GameCube, as well as create an accurate depiction of what hell looks like. Since Space World 2000, the tech demo has never resurfaced, and all that remains of it is footage captured from the event. Mario 64 2, or as I like to call it, Mario 65, refers to the planned sequel to Mario 64 that was intended for release in 1999. The game was planned to utilize the Nintendo 64 disk drive, an add-on for the N64 that would let players put floppy disks, that would let the players put floppy disks into their console. Why would players want to do that? Why not? Due to the add-on only having a limited release in Japan, as well as the impracticality of it, the floppy disk add-on completely flopped, pun intended. Due to this, development for Mario 64 2 stopped before it even really started. Some say that one demo level was made for it, but if that's the case, it was never shown to the public. Sword Quest Airworld refers to the cancelled entry into the Sword Quest series for the Atari 2600. These games, for the time, were quite the spectacle, as each game in the series hosted a tie-in competition in which players could win prizes worth up to $25,000, most likely the whole budget for the games. Look at this fucking thing. The series was planned to contain 4 entries, each following an elemental theme: Earthworld, Fireworld, Waterworld, and the cancelled Airworld. The games were doing quite well by Atari standards, and there was quite a bit of hype surrounding the contest. However, after the infamous video game crash of 1983, the final entry was ultimately cancelled, and the contest for the series ended early. Do you remember that Mario soccer game, Super Mario Strikers? Well, apparently, it was meant to get a spin-off volleyball game. Yeah, I don't believe myself either. Super Mario Spikers is a cancelled spin-off Mario game made by the same folks that developed Super Mario Strikers back in 2005. Considering the success of Mario, but soccer, Nintendo gave the devs a higher budget and more freedom to create whatever they wanted, and they chose Mario Volleyball. I'm sorry, but unless it takes place on a beach and features anime women, I couldn't give a shit about Mario playing volleyball. Apparently the devs over at Next Level Games couldn't give a shit either, and decided to incorporate wrestling elements into the game to make it more interesting. How they were gonna combine wrestling with volleyball, I'll leave that to your imagination. Despite a playable prototype already being finished, Nintendo rejected the game, saying it was too violent and went against their code of honor. Chill out, alright? You make fucking children's video games. You're not a fucking samurai. After looking at some of the leaked animations from the game's development, I can't really blame them for cancelling it. This is quite insane. Remember Conker's Bad Fur Day? That one N64 game with a bad mouth orange rat thing and a giant sentient pile of shit? Well, apparently, the game was originally planned to be a lot tamer and more similar to Banjo and Kazooie. 12 Tales, Conker 64, also known as Conker's Quest, was an early version of Conker's Bad Fur Day that was first announced in 1997 as the sequel to Conker's Pocket Tales on the Game Boy Color. After announcing it, Rare, the developer, received a bit of criticism due to how similar it was to their prior title, Banjo-Kazooie. I only just learned that the game is called Banjo-Kazooie. I always thought it was called Banjo and Kazooie. I think I might have just switched timelines. Anyway, fans were quite bored about the fact that Rare were making another cookie-cutter, family-friendly platformer, and in response to this, they shelved Conker's Quest. At the time, the game was thought to be cancelled indefinitely, but Rare came back a few years later with a redesign of the game called Conker's Bad Fur Day. This new, revitalized version was not your mother's 3D platformer. No, Conker's Bad Fur Day was just that. Bad. Bad to the motherfucking bone. It contained every naughty word ever uttered by man, and was filled to the brim with super offensive humor, not to be seen by the eyes of children. Also a giant sentient pile of shit. Since its release, the original family-friendly build of the game was thought to be lost, until a 30-minute gameplay video randomly appeared in 2012. Additionally, in March of 2023, Tim Stamper, the co-founder of Rare, shared some footage of a working 12 Tales cartridge that appeared to still be working, and is in safe hands. As of now, it's unclear if the build will ever get released to the public, but if it is, it'll probably cost $50 on the eShop. Ura Zelda, or Other Zelda in English, is a shelved add-on for The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time that utilized the previously mentioned N64 disk drive. With the deserved short lifespan of the disk drive, the Ocarina of Time add-on died alongside it. Supposedly, this add-on was meant to offer brand new dungeon layouts that were more difficult to those in the original, as well as more content in the form of new quests and items. Although the add-on was fully developed, the complete failure of the disk drive forced Nintendo to cancel its release. Still wanting to make use of what they had made, Nintendo would release the add-on in a bundle, also containing the original game for the GameCube. This bundle would be given to those that pre-ordered Wind Waker on a bonus disc when the game came out. Unfortunately, the content in this version of Other Zelda was quite lackluster, as all it contained was a few remixed dungeons and none of the additional items or quests speculated to exist. During the Nintendo Giga Leak in 2020, 4chan users managed to find some leftover Ura Zelda files in the original Ocarina of Time. In the leak, they were able to find 2 entirely new maps that were meant to be used in the add-on that weren't found in the GameCube release. Fortunately, users were able to port these newly found maps into the base game and view the add-on as it was originally intended. Finally, something not Nintendo related. Walt's Warning refers to an interactive Flash game from 2009 that was made to promote the second season of Breaking Bad. The Flash game allowed players to submit photos and names that the game would use to create customized videos in which Walter White would give a warning to the person submitted. There's nothing like pranking the missus by sending her a video of Walter White giving them a death threat and burning a photo of them. Now that's romantic. Unfortunately, the game ended up disappearing in the great 2020 Flash game purge. However, footage of the game is still available, as well as a file containing a small portion of the game. I'm sorry folks, you can no longer make Hal from Malcolm in the Middle give your loved ones death threats. Truly the biggest loss from the discontinuation of Flash. Yeah Yeah Beavis 1 is probably one of, if not the most notorious piece of video game lost media. The search for this bad boy has been going on for quite a long time and remains a defining piece of lost media till this day. The search for this guy was started when it was mentioned in a 1998 listing for the video game mail order service Play It Again. Since its first mention, it managed to appear in multiple other advertisements from Play It Again, but here's the thing, it doesn't fucking exist, at least not to the knowledge of the general public. This name, Yeah Yeah Beavis 1 has been pulled apart limb from limb by people on the internet, and still no definitive game with this title has resurfaced. There's a shit ton of theories out there on what this game actually is. It could be a placeholder, a copyright trap, or even an inside joke between the people working at the mail order service. Among many games, two stick out as promising candidates for Yeah Beavis 1. Super Pitfall 2, a cancelled sequel to Activision's Super Pitfall, is often thought to be the culprit, as the Japanese title for the game sounds a bit like Yeah Beavis, but it's a bit of a stretch. The game that most people associate with the title is Rai Rai Kyonshi's Baby Kyonshi no Mida da Buken. A large group of people in the search believe that Yeah Beavis 1 is a poorly localized name for the said game. The name Rai Rai sounds a bit like yeah, and the word baby could have been confused as Beavis. I don't know about that. The game most likely doesn't exist, but life goes on, doesn't it? This entry refers to the partially lost original builds of Duke Nukem Forever, known for having one of the longest and most abysmal development cycles in the entire gaming industry. Duke Nukem Forever started development all the way back in 1996 and was released in 2011. In most cases, it takes about 9 months to create and give birth to a baby, a process filled with biological and scientific wonders that results in a living, breathing human being that can go on to do great things and contribute to society. It takes 15 years to make Duke Nukem Forever. Where those 15 years went, I have no idea. I'm 90% sure they were jerking off the whole time. This game is dog shit. Due to the numerous changes enacted throughout the comically long development process, 2 separate early builds managed to be developed which are now both lost. Why on earth would someone want to search for more of this game? I have no idea. Fortunately for you 3 Duke Nukem Forever fans out there, gameplay footage of a 2001 build showed at E3 was leaked in 2022, with the leaker going on to release the actual build itself, as well as its source code and press kit. The leaker also apparently holds an even earlier build, in which the game was a side-scroller, but for the good of humanity, he has not released it. Oh, hell yeah. Family Guy Online, or as I like to call it, the best MMO ever developed, I'm sorry, Big Bible Town, was an RPG that was in service from 2012 to 2013. As you can guess by its name, it was based on the long-running animated sitcom Family Guy, and allowed the player to create and customize their own family person, and take them on missions throughout the city of Cowhog. The game only managed to run for about 1 year, until Fox saw it was making no money, and realized that no one wants to play a Family Guy MMO, leading to them shutting down the servers. Fuck, I wonder why. Many people say the world ended in 2012, when the infamous Mayan calendar came to an end, and we are now living in the rapture. I say, the world ended in 2013, when the Family Guy servers were shut down. Unlike with a lot of MMOs, Family Guy Online didn't seem like it was worth saving, so no mirrors for it were created, meaning it's impossible to play. While the game itself has been banished into the Shadow Realm, gameplay videos of it still exist, as well as a ton of files and assets that were grabbed from the game before it was killed by Fox, execution style. Kid Kirby, also known as Jelly, he kinda does look like Jelly, doesn't he? Was a cancelled Kirby spin-off game that was planned to be developed by none other than Rockstar North. Yes, that Rockstar North. I definitely can't be the only person that wants to see Kirby run over innocent civilians and throw C4 at pedestrians. Unfortunately, Kid Kirby wasn't an open-world sandbox in which you can brutally murder innocent people. No, instead it was an Angry Birds-like platformer that made use of the Super Nintendo mouse. You know, the one you could use to draw dicks in Mario Paint. The game would feature an aged-down Kirby and King Dedede, and would consist of the player using the mouse to drag and launch Kirby around levels. Considering that development of the game was taking a lot longer than expected, as well as the poor sales of the SNES mouse, Nintendo decided it was best to cancel the game. While a few screenshots for it have been found, according to one of the game's developers, the demo of the game that was produced has disappeared off the face of the earth. He's most likely lying though. He's just hoarding it for himself. This entry refers to the lost build of Luigi's Mansion that was showcased during Space World 2000. Among with many other lost pieces of media, this demo for Luigi's Mansion was showcased during Space World 2000 during the announcement of the game. Hardcore Luigi's Mansion fans, yes, they exist, noted that in the footage from the event, several differences can be seen in the demo from the final product. Some differences include a different, more rectangular looking Poltergust 3000, the layout of the mansion appearing to be drastically different, a bunch of showcased ghosts that were either cut entirely or changed before release, and the inclusion of different art on the game's disc. While there's quite a bit of footage of this demo available, it's likely that the demo shown will remain lost. Doom 4, no, not that Doom 4, you silly monkey. This Doom 4 was a planned installment in the Doom series that would release for 7th gen consoles until it got cancelled in 2011. According to the CEO of id Software at the time, the game wasn't meant to be a sequel to Doom 3 and was also going to be a reboot, so yeah, kinda like that Doom 4. In fact, after its cancellation, a lot of the game was reworked into what ended up being Doom 2016. You can even see remnants of the game in Doom Eternal. It's not really known why the game got cancelled, but it was most likely scrapped in favor of 2016 Doom, so it was probably for the best. While some music composed for the game, as well as a few snippets of gameplay and animations are publicly available, the playable pre-alpha build that was supposedly developed still remains lost. Socks the Cat Rocks the Hill, what a name for a game, was an unreleased 1993 platformer featuring Bill Clinton's cat, Socks, planned to be released on the SNES and Sega Genesis. Why in God's name were they making a game about the president's pet cat? I don't know, man, it's hard to come up with good ideas. The main plot of the game would feature the titular Socks fighting foreign rat spies. That sounds very racist, I swear it's not. That would invade the White House in order to steal nuclear plans. That's pretty specific. I wonder if this game is based on a true story. The game would also feature a few bosses based on other American politicians, such as Rose Perot and even Jimmy Carter. I take back everything I said. This game has the fucking peanut president. A game with Jimmy Carter is a game worth playing. So luckily, in 2018, the Super Nintendo build of the game was dumped online for everyone to play. It was quite the process, however, as the man whose hands ended up with the copy refused to dump it online. He did, however, offer to sell the copy for a whopping $5,000, or, you know, for a copy of Stadium Event for the NES, or, you know, a Medieval Madness pinball machine. This man had his priorities straight. He knew what Socks the Cat Rocks the Hill was truly worth. Eventually, one courageous soul ended up purchasing the copy from him and dumping it online. No, he didn't give him the pinball machine. He gave him $5,000. Despite the epic uncovering of the SNES version, no copy of the Sega Genesis version has surfaced in any way, and not much information is known about it. The Burger King CDI training program, also referred to as Burger King Operations Training, was a series of CDI FMV games that were used at multiple Burger King locations across America to train employees. Making and serving Whoppers at Burger King is a process so intense and complicated that only an FMV game could truly describe the process to newcomers. These games made use of the Philips CDI that was released in 1990. That's right, Zelda CDI is only the second best thing to come from the device. In late 1996, the Winter Park Media Design Group decided to collaborate with Burger King to create and implement this training game that was planned to have a trial run at 9,000 Burger King locations before being used across all locations. That's a lot of Philips CDIs. For quite some time, the existence of this game was only known through business articles written during the time discussing the unusual partnership. According to the articles, the game would have players answer work-related questions that would appear on the screen. Riveting. An interest in finding this work of art ended up popping up in the comments section of a video uploaded in 2021 reviewing the Philips CDI. A comment left by a user asked the uploader to review the Burger King CDI game, as they had recalled seeing something about it in the early 2000s. Aside from the business articles and this one YouTube comment, there was no actual proof that this game existed. That was until later in the year when a dump of the game appeared online out of nowhere. Supposedly the dump came from the Home Computer Museum in the Netherlands. Like most company training videos, this Burger King CDI training program is a goddamn masterpiece. Thank God for the Netherlands Home Computer Museum. I still get very emotional about this topic, so please forgive my somber tone. Silent Hills is a well-known cancelled horror game that was set to be an entirely new installment into the Silent Hill franchise. The game was to be produced by the world's most talented game director, Hideo Kojima, and was going to be worked on with a ton of talented figures, such as the director Guillermo del Toro, as well as Norman Reedus. In mid-2014, a teaser titled PT, meaning playable teaser, was uploaded to the PlayStation Store, only to be revealed at the end as an official teaser for a new Silent Hill game. This demo exploded in popularity, and I remember seeing dozens of people playing it and shitting themselves on YouTube. Unfortunately, in 2015, Hideo Kojima was laid off by the world's most evil corporation, Konami, which ultimately led to the cancellation of the game, and the demo was removed from the PlayStation Store. Thankfully, while the demo is lost, those who installed it to their console before it got removed were able to keep it, and it can still be played today. However, this teaser that was uploaded to the PlayStation Store wasn't the only demo for Silent Hills. According to Guillermo del Toro, the version of the playable teaser that he was first shown by Kojima was radically different from the one that was released to the public. Both this, as well as the concept trailer that was shown at the 2014 Tokyo Game Show, showing a different playable teaser, suggest that there is a lost prototype of the demo. Half-Life: Return to Ravenholm, also known as Half-Life Episode 4, was a cancelled installment into the Half-Life series that was in development by Arcane Studios from 2006 to 2007. In the game, you would play as the mad lad Adrian Shepard, the main character from Opposing Force, in which he would visit the zombie-infested town of Ravenholm that was featured in Half-Life 2. Quite a bit of development on the game was made before Valve ultimately cancelled it because zombie games were heavily played out during the time, also due to the fact that they found it difficult to place it narrative-wise into the Half-Life canon. Not too much was known about the game, apart from what was said in interviews, as well as what was seen in gameplay featured in an old documentary. That was until 2022, when the YouTube channel NoClip uploaded an hour-long gameplay commentary video featuring 5 chapters from the game. While full gameplay of the build is available, the actual build itself still isn't available to the public. This entry refers to the employee training game that McDonald's Japan developed for the Nintendo DS in 2012. In order to brighten up the days of depressed new recruits, McDonald's Japan thought the best idea was to develop a DS game as a means of teaching them how to work. That's almost as brain dead as a Philips CDI FMV game. During its implementation, it gained quite a bit of buzz within the media, but the copies of the game were only handed out to McDonald's Japan employees, and each copy required an individualized password to play. God forbid someone gain unauthorized access and learn the secrets behind making a Big Mac. A copy of the game eventually surfaced online in 2018 after a user showed some photos of it, but due to it being password protected, the user that bought it couldn't get past the main menu. However, after inspecting the game's code, they were finally able to crack the password and learn the forbidden knowledge that festered within the DS cartridge over the years. He ended up uploading some gameplay footage onto YouTube, but for some reason never dumped the game. That was until the YouTuber Nick Robinson made a video in which he bought a copy of the game in a Yahoo auction for about $4,000, in which he subsequently dumped online. Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 3 was the planned final episode for Sonic the Hedgehog 4 that was, for some strange reason, episodic. The third episode was planned to be developed by Sega Studios Australia, and most likely would have been a pile of hot, festering garbage, just like the first 2 episodes. The development of it began shortly after the release of the second episode, but soon stopped after Sega Studios Australia was disbanded for some unknown reason. That was, probably for the best. I don't think a single person was asking for this game. There's really no way to know how far the game was in development, and no footage or even concept art from it has appeared online, and most likely never will. Super Mario Kart R refers to the early version of what would end up being Mario Kart 64 in 1997. During early development, the game was referred to as Super Mario Kart R, with the R standing for rigatoni because Mario is Italian. No, I'm just yanking your chain. It's standard for rendering. This early build of the game was shown to the public during Nintendo Space World in 1995 and appeared to be slightly different from the final release. One of the main differences was that the game didn't feature Donkey Kong as a playable character. Instead, they opted for the more popular and well-known Magi Koopa. What the fuck is a Magi Koopa? While the actual build for this early version isn't available, a ton of footage and screenshots as well as some leaked code and assets are. Sonic Cafe was a gaming mobile service that was made by Sega in Japan back in 2001 that ended up being cancelled, being the second largest tragedy to occur that year. Users of the Sonic Cafe were able to cough up a whopping 300 yen a month, about $3, in order to download titles from their favorite game company, Sega. The service was quite packed with games containing mobile spin-offs of almost all their main franchises. Puyo Puyo, Sonic, obviously, and even Samba de Amigo, you know, that little dancing Brazilian monkey fella. The service would later get rebranded as Puyo Puyo Sega, and a few games became unavailable. The service ended up surviving up until 2019, when they stopped letting people sign up. While a few games from the service have been dumped online and are available to emulate, the majority of the titles still remain lost. 3D Groove Games refers to the numerous lost browser games made using 3D Groove. 3D Groove was a 3D game engine that, while created in 1998, really peaked during the mid-2000s, around the time every company decided to host browser games on their website. Most, if not all, the games making use of this engine were, quote, adver games developed at the request of a company to promote a brand. Think of Pepsi Man, but instead of a well-developed game, you play as a Pringles mascot riding a horse. What do Pringles have to do with riding horses, you may ask? Nothing. As the years went on, 3D Groove wasn't just used to promote brands, but also kids' television shows. Is this what hell looks like? Eventually, 3D Groove ended up shutting down their site in 2009 to move on to other ventures, leaving a large portion of their games lost. Fortunately, over the past few years, a large number of these games have resurfaced online and are now available to play again. However, a few are still missing. Super Mario's Wacky Worlds was another cancelled Philips CDI game. Wow, that's crazy. I wonder why this console had so many cancelled games. Wacky Worlds was planned to be the sequel to Super Mario World on the SNES, and was going to be developed by Nova Logic. Who's Nova Logic, you might be asking? Well, I don't know either. They made like combat flight simulations. What a perfect developer to make the sequel to, you know, Super Mario World. The game was apparently 30% developed before it was cancelled due to the CDI's poor sales, and 3 prototypes were known to exist. Quite a while ago, a ROM was uploaded online back in 2002, and goddamn, this game fucking sucks. This entry refers to another lost Space World demo, this one for Super Mario 64. Like a lot of N64 titles, Super Mario 64 was first shown off at Space World in '95, when, at the time, the game was only about half developed. This early build of the game shown off at Space World had quite a few differences to the final release, considering it was still being developed. There were quite a few differences between the UI, the levels, and it even showed some scrapped gameplay mechanics. While quite a bit of footage and screenshots of this build were gathered, it was never given to the public. This was until the Nintendo Giga Leak in 2020, where the majority of Mario 64's source code was revealed. Within said code, some beta and unused content was found, including a model for Luigi. While it's not the space build or anything, it's most likely the closest thing to it that we'll ever see. This entry refers to the lost DLC fighters for the game PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. God damn, this game is so underrated, dude. I played the shit out of this when I was a kid, and I had no idea who the characters were. This game is how I found out about Uncharted and Parappa the Rapper. Anyway, after the release of the game, it had some DLC content planned, but was abruptly cancelled for some unknown reason, most likely to the game's sales, or lack thereof. The DLC planned to feature Dart Feld from The Legend of Dragoon as a playable character. Ah, yes, Dart Feld. Wow, I wonder why this DLC was cancelled. Apparently the DLC was meant to feature Abe from Abe's Odyssey, but the 12 Legends of Dragoon fans on Twitter convinced the developers to change plans. It was also meant to feature a stage from the game, as well as Gravity Rush. This entry refers to the planned sequel to Among Us, Among Us 2. The sequel was first announced in August of 2020, when about a month later they cancelled it. Innersloth made an announcement saying that due to the popularity of the first game, there was not much point making another, and they planned to add the content from the would-be sequel as an update to the game. So yeah, this game isn't really lost, as there wasn't a game made, or any content for that matter. Alright, that's enough. I'm sick of talking about Among Us. Super Mario RPG 2, or Super Mario Adventure in the United States, because apparently Americans don't know what RPG means, was another cancelled game for the N64 disk drive that was shown off during the 1997 Space World. The game was planned to be a sequel to Super Mario RPG, as you may guess, but ended up getting reworked into Paper Mario, and its development was moved towards the N64. Its gameplay was said to have been quite similar to Paper Mario, involving characters being 2D cutouts in a puppet show-like 3D environment. Fez 2 was the cancelled sequel to the wildly successful indie game, Fez. The game was announced in June of 2013, only to be cancelled a month later. Damn, Inner Sloth have some competition. If you know anything about the developer of Fez, Phil Fish, he's the world's most hated game developer, so there's no surprise there why it was cancelled. Feeling dissatisfied with the game industry and not wanting to be a part of it anymore, he decided to quit his game dev career, abandoned his Twitter account. The only thing ever shown of Fez 2 was a teaser trailer showing the game's logo, but that's about it. Little Big Planet Generator is a lost Flash game that was made back in 2008 to promote the game Little Big Planet. The game took Little Big Planet's character creator and converted it into a Flash game, allowing users to make their own Sackboy in their browser. Honestly, a pretty cool idea. The game was up for quite a bit until it mysteriously got taken down in 2011, with the website redirecting to PlayStation's homepage. While the game itself isn't playable anymore, a rip of the game's files as well as some gameplay footage is still available. Banjo 3E refers to a hypothetical third entry in the series and a sequel to Banjo Tooie. Wow, real creative naming right there. I get Banjo Tooie, but Banjo 3E is fucking stretching it, man. Think of something else. The only actual mention of this game by Rareware comes from the end of Banjo Tooie, in which the main villain, Gruntilda, says, "Just you wait until Banjo 3E," as a throwaway gag. I honestly don't blame people for thinking this confirmed a sequel. I mean, you can't just edge your fan base like that. Come on, man. Conversation about this third entry really picked up at Space World 2000, when Rare showed footage of a demo consisting of Banjo Tooie assets ported onto the GameCube. As you may expect, fans thought this was that promised third entry, but in reality it was a demo just made to let people know that they were attending the event. Dicks. Final Fantasy 64 refers to the unconfirmed N64 game, Final Fantasy VI, the interactive CG game, also known as Final Fantasy 64. Yeah, I prefer the second title. What the fuck is that first one? Jesus. Yes, I love playing Final Fantasy, the interactive visual audio gameplay computer-generated video game experience. What a banger, man. The origin of this title comes from before Square Enix released their hit Final Fantasy VII for the PS1 in 1996. At the time, they were dicking around with cool, brand new polygonal 3D technology and ended up making a demo showing off their endeavors, of which was titled Final Fantasy VI, the interactive CG game. Eventually, the gaming news tabloid Game Fan magazine claimed this demo was actually for a game called Final Fantasy 64, the next Final Fantasy title from Square that was in development for the N64. Their source? They made it the f*** up. After getting rid of this rumor, Square Enix announced that they were making a game called Final Fantasy VII, and it was going to be made for the based PlayStation and not the cringe N64. While some footage and screenshots of this demo are available, the demo itself still remains lost. This entry refers to the completely lost prototype build of the original Mega Drive Sonic the Hedgehog game. During the Tokyo Toy Show in 1990, Sega gave Sonic the Hedgehog to the general public to play for the first time, one of the worst decisions made by mankind. They let attendees play a demo, showcasing Sonic in an early version of Green Hill Zone, and according to witnesses, the demo appeared to be even more advanced than the final version, with it having more complex parallax scrolling. According to Yuji Naka, the co-creator of Sonic, Sega planned to release this demo with the Sonic Mega Collection, however they couldn't as they ended up losing it. Nice one. This entry refers to the lost DLC created for Pokemon Crystal on the Game Boy Color. All the way back in 2000, when the game was released, Nintendo came out with an adapter for the Game Boy Color that let users connect their Game Boy to their phone in order to access the internet and make use of networking features of certain games. Yeah, that's right. Nintendo were making DLC for their games before 9/11. Let that sink in. Get the fuck out of here. Eventually, thanks to Nintendo shutting down the service in 2002 due to a lack of sales, the DLC for Pokemon Crystal were lost. While you still had DLC files if you downloaded them beforehand, they were stored in the game's RAM, which was powered by a battery, and due to the Pokemon games making use of in-game clocks, Instead of eating pellets, he ate my ball. The game's publisher, Phoenix Games, are well known for their quality PS2 titles, made with tons of care and love, such as Snow White and the 7 Clever Boys. As you may put together from the quality of this box art, this company is now defunct, but before they went bankrupt, they managed to squirt out as many dogshit games as they could. They truly were the masters of creating shovelware. This entry refers to one such title, I Want to Die. As you can tell by the name and box art, I'm not saying that name out loud. It's apparently a slur. Despite official box art and even a listing on a few retail sites, the game doesn't exist. Whether or not the game was never made or never published, we will truly never know. The only content of this game we have is some supposed pre-alpha footage. Yo, I wonder why this company went bankrupt. Keeping up with the theme of lost games that never existed in the first place, we have probably the most well-known example, Kakarot. Kakarot is a rumored platformer that was said to be released for the Sega Genesis in 1993. Rumors of the game popped up all over the internet with this accompanying box art, but from what I can find, the rumor first came from 4chan, and considering the game has the word kek in it, that wouldn't be surprising. The game has quite a creepy and mysterious aura surrounding it, with many claiming its lack of documented history, and creepy box art is very unsettling and disturbing. Since its inception, it's sort of become a meme and a sort of a joke in the lost media community. Dweebers refers to the lost cancelled Game Boy game that was developed by Vic Tokai and was planned to be released around 1990. From what I can find, there's only been 2 official mentions of this game, with the first being in a brochure made by Vic Tokai, accompanied by some box art, and the other in a book from 1990 about home video games. It's very unfortunate this game got lost. Look at those little fellas. I wonder what mischief and shenanigans they got up to. I wonder what they did to that kid. Couldn't have been good. Disney Infinity 4.0 is the cancelled 4th installment in the Disney Infinity series. If you don't know what Disney Infinity was, which if you don't, you're probably too young to be watching this, it was a sandbox toy-to-life game featuring Disney and Pixar IPs, just like Skyward. Before it was.
you.